Hi everyone, my name is Navid Khan. We will begin the seminar now, so keep your ears sharpened and enjoy the session that we have today. So let's start. Okay, so I'm just going to do a quick introduction for Oracle Analytics, and we will have a bit of an agenda where we go through a bit on the news regarding Oracle Analytics and what are the benefits of going or moving to cloud and what is new. And then we will have a bit of a demo as well to show some of the capabilities that I answered or show. A bit of a background. So for some of you who are probably using Oracle BI platform, and some might be new to it, but most of you have probably touched upon it and have it in place. So this might be something that is familiar for you. So the Oracle BI platform has always been a platform which is built on this semantic model, as we like, or as we say, and the benefit of that is creating a semantic model where you have a data model in place, connecting to sources, and defining metrics and dimensions in place. So you have consistency, correct information, and a governance model in this. On top of this, we deployed or released a self-serving tool that we call data visualization, where business users could easily, with drag and drop methods, create reports and dashboard while utilizing this data model underneath the hood. So providing consistency and governance, but at the same time, providing self-service capabilities. We then also released a bit more advanced analytics or advanced capabilities on top of this for business users. So they can do things like machine learning with drag and drop capabilities. They could create dashboards and queries where the tool itself guide the business user where to dig deeper in the data. So it actually did things like profiling and looking in anomalies in the data set and then giving an explanation where should we dig in deeper. We also embedded things like natural language processing, natural language querying, which meant that can you somehow talk to the solution or type in questions, and that in return triggers or creates a SQL query. So you could ask things like by typing, what is the revenue in region Sweden, for example, where I'm based, and it will trigger or convert that text into a query language and giving you a report. So these are some of the things that we have embedded in the platform. So starting with a governance model, adding self-service capabilities with drag and drop visualization possibilities, and then adding more sophisticated tools or capabilities in the same platform, utilizing this governance model by using machine learning and things like natural language processing. And these are some of the things that we will see a bit more in a demo later on. So this is a high-level overview of the whole analytics platform or the whole data governance cloud platform, if you like. And now it says cloud, but we have, of course, most of these things or almost everything of these things also on-premise. And one of the big benefits is, of course, we're releasing the newest releases on cloud first. So you will always get the latest stuff. So we have a really frequent release cycles on the cloud because of the benefits that cloud have. And just to go through, we have the platform in place. In this case, from a cloud perspective, it's Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. We then have integration solutions, data management solutions, and they, of course, exist both on-premise type, but also as a cloud option. So you can actually run hybrid as an option. So databases, ETL tools, integration tools, data catalog tools, all of these things exist in on-prem or cloud. That is the strategy. And then on top of this, we have both pre-built analytical applications with pre-built ETL and dashboards for specific applications. So both on-prem and SaaS applications. So a pre-built, you could say quick value, meaning that everything is built for that specific SaaS application and you don't have to build anything from scratch. But also we have the platform approach. So if you don't use Oracle applications, you're using other applications, or maybe you're using Oracle, but third-party applications as well, which is quite common. So we have the data model or in the platform option with Oracle Analytics Cloud or on-prem, where you can then create data models and connecting to all type of sources. On top of that, you then have all these capabilities regarding self-service and machine learning, which we will come into a bit more in a demo showing what that exactly is and what you can do. So going through a bit on a high level, what is the benefit with the Oracle platform or Oracle Analytics platform? We focus quite heavily on three things in general, or this is a really high level benefit view, if you like. The first thing is governance. So we're really focusing on governance, which we have done in many, many years. So that means that creating a consistent data model for business to use. So we connect to different sources and making sure all of this has a governance model. And then we have on top of this self-service capabilities with data visualization, which will come into a demo and showing, but we're using the governed model, making sure that data numbers are consistent. On top of this, we then have the machine learning capabilities. So how can a business user without deep technical skills get value out of machine learning models with a visit-based approach in an easy way? This is a high-level view of the analytics platform. So for those of you working with OBIE or maybe even Oracle Cloud, you will probably feel familiar. This is basically the data repository or the RPD, the data model, which we focus quite heavily on. So creating a business or the physical layer connecting to sources, we're creating then a business model, the star schemas in Oracle Analytics platform. And then we have something called presentation layer. So that's what the business see. But the interesting part is this is how we create governance. And this is also how we create simplicity for users. So they don't have to know in detail where is this data coming from. They're only seeing metrics and dimensions like sales and products, for example. And underneath the hood in the platform, it's connecting to the sources and creating the queries necessary for the underlying sources. So this is how we create governance and simplicity. Once we have this governance model in place, we can then use Oracle Analytics Cloud, all of these different options. So data visualization, mobility, using machine learning capabilities, using data mashups, all of this is utilizing the same data model underneath the hood. And that is a huge value. So you have consistency, but you have the flexibility as well from a business user perspective. And this is a little how it looks like from a data modeling perspective. So IT perspective, that's on the left side here, developer view, where you create the sources, connecting to the sources, creating these fact and dimension tables, creating the data models, and then we have the presentation layer, what the business sees. So this is exactly just as you can see on the left side, we have something called sample app. That's a business model, which the business sees. And it's exactly showing how it will be looked or viewed upon once the business users use it. But things like revenue and customer or number of customers, that might be a combination of different sources, but I, as a user, don't have to worry about that. It's just easy to use and it connects to the underlying sources because of this governance model we have in place. Once that's done, we have a lot of different functionality on top of this. So conditional formatting, we have data enrichment, machine learning, we can use custom mapping, we can customize all the dashboards. And these are some of the things that we will see in the demo later on. So there's a lot of new functionality coming out. We have a strategy that it is cloud first. So a lot of these things comes out on the cloud first, but then we have a release cycles coming in not as frequent, but coming out for the on-prem environment as well. So this is just a simple way of how we would then be able to create a report. So we can connect to sources, there's a drag and drop capability, and then we can visualize, analyze, and share the reports in a simple way. This is another view of how we then can create machine learning models in Oracle Analytics with drag and drop approach, and we will see that a bit more in detail. So making simple for users. So rather than writing code in Python or R, we have these capabilities using Oracle platform with visit-based approach to do quite heavily powerful stuff, like, for example, customer attrition models to understand which customer are leaving us and why, for example, but without writing code. This is another view that is new for the analytics platform, which we have in the product, and it's again cloud first. So this is how you can create custom maps. You can add different images and create image objects on top of it, and then connect it to your data source. So on the left side, we see a bit from a manufacturing perspective on jet turbines, how we can visualize different components, looking at shipping times and cost for different components. On the right side, we see a bit more from a sports perspective, in this case, Premier League. So things like how are the players moving on the map, on the court, from which areas people are often shooting the goals from, and so on. So this is another way of looking at visualization and doing data analysis. So as I mentioned, these are some of the capabilities that we have in the platform. So connect to different sources. We have a data model in place. We then can do prepare, so data wrangling, explore using the deep machine learning capabilities to explain the data set for me in a simple way, so I know where to focus. And then I have these self-service capabilities for me to do drag and drop to create the reports. And also the collaboration part. So if I want to share the reports or the insights that I received, I can share them in a simple way on the web page, mobile, or embed them in third-party applications as well. So we have a couple of things on, a lot of these things on our public roadmap as well. So you can see some of the capabilities that exist and it's coming out. But before we go into this deeper, I would want to jump over to my colleague Bas, who would actually show some of these things in real life. So all of these things that I explained with simplicity, with the machine learning capabilities, with the drag and drop capabilities, creating these insights, we want to do a bit of a demo to show these functionalities, but in real life. So I will hand over the word to my colleague Bas, and he will go through a bit of this in a demo format. So Bas, are you able to share?
Yes, I am. Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining this session. Navid mentioned that I'm going to show everything. Well, everything is a lot. So, and we only have 40 minutes left. So I will do my best to show you things that we have available within our Oracle Analytics Cloud. Well, my name is Bas Roelands. I'm working for Oracle in the Netherlands. So we have an international hosting organization today. And what I would like to show you is based upon a use case. And the use case is called OCoffee. And OCoffee is an organization which makes profit in selling coffee and coffee beans. And in this setting, I'm going to become one of the persons who works at coffee or at Oracle Coffee. So I'm changing my background now to not changing the hat, but changing the background to being Oracle Coffee guy. And at Oracle Coffee, or OCoffee as we call it, we have 5 retail brands in the Netherlands. And some of them are easy to pronounce and some of them are more difficult to pronounce. But it's Broodjes en Boontjes, Hamé Coffee Company, Koffiehoekske, and Starbucks. And these are the 5 retail brands that we use to sell our coffee in the Netherlands. And we are doing that at about 127 different locations spread around the Netherlands. So that is the setting. And the coffee that we are selling 4 different products, types of beans and types of coffee. Sumatra Wonder, the Kona Roast, the Peru Decaf, and Jamaican Smooth are the 4 products that we sell. And this year in June or July, we have introduced a new product, which is called Colombian Instant. And me as an analyst, the job for me to do is these 3 things. I would like to see how that introduction of Colombian Instant has been going. So do an analyze on that, because we would like to, we have introduced the Colombian Instant at a test region, which is the Amsterdam region. I want to see if where we can introduce the coffee for the next phase. So phase 2 is the introduction of the Colombian Instant in a broader spectrum in the Netherlands. But we don't want to do a big bang. We want to do it in a smart way, so it's going to be very successful. And the third, what we would like to explore, if we can use any kind of machine learning or AI to do things even smarter. So we're going to look at the data, do some, create some insights, and then based upon that, see if we can find new locations, and then see if we can do an optimization of the introduction. So let me switch to a browser, and hopefully you can see the browser. Yeah, I forgot to log in, so let me log in. So if we look at the Oracle Analytics Cloud, and Naveed mentioned that we are able to talk with the data. So in this search area, I can say, okay, let's have a look at revenue. And by doing that, it is now collecting the revenue, and the revenue in total of our organization is about 760,000 euros. But I mentioned, okay, I want to focus upon a test region, but I can also say, okay, do the revenue by store. So here now I can see the stores which are related to our revenue, and I can also say, okay, do me the revenue by store on a map. So now we will see how the revenue is spread around the stores on a map in the Netherlands. So these are the locations that we have our stores, and the darker the circles are, the bigger the revenue is. As you can see, Amsterdam is our main region, which is our test region. So I can use that as a filter, saying, okay, in test region. And what it's doing now is it's filtering towards the stores that are used in our test region. So these are the stores we also introduced our Colombian instant in. So as a starting point, this could be the way that I'm starting with the conversation with my data. So I've now used typing in text, and on mobile device, this can also be done by speaking to your phone, and then the same results will appear to you. In here, I also have the capability of saying, okay, let's move on to dive into a workbook, as we call it. So here we can see that we are in the workbook. I'm in the workbook now, and here is the data set that I'm using. So these are the data elements that I have, and this is the way it's being visualized here. And if I want, I can adjust my dashboard. For instance, I can say, okay, let's select revenue and bring revenue up there. So we can see that 484,000 as a revenue over there. But I want to have more insight. So I also want to have a look at the product. So I'm double selecting the product, and now the product is in in that visualization. And here I can also say, okay, let's make that size a little bit bigger so I can have a better look at it. So I can see that Colombian instant and introduction is going pretty well, but I want to see in time how it's doing. So I'm selecting months. So I'm double clicking, and as you can see, it's now moving from a bar chart into a line graph. So the system is supporting me in selecting a good visualization for this. And as we know, we are introducing it into several retailers. So from here, you can also say select retailer and drag it to a section in which I want to have it. In this case, I want to have it here as a trellis. So now I can see by retailer how the products are doing in time in the various retailer organizations. So from scratch, building something is not so difficult. It's pretty easy. But let me jump back. I'm not saving what I just did, because I already have created a dashboard, or dashboard has already been created for me, which is here, our workbook, as we are calling it more recently. So here's a workbook that has been created for us to use. And as you can see, some of the reports are the reports that I just built from scratch. So to give you the insight that it's not so difficult to create such a dashboard. So let me emphasize on the screen. So here we can see the total revenue again. That's the 484 number. Here are the number of members. Here's the report that I also just created, only with different color settings. Here's the map to show, okay, where's the revenue on the various locations. And here is something which we call a narrative. So this is, instead of using a visualization, we can also create text to see insights based upon that visualization. So here we see an overall trend and a breakdown per product. So the trend here, you can see a maximum or the minimum value, maximum peak, and things like that. And this is done based upon the data that is used in the visualization. And here's a breakdown per product. So you can see the products here. So you can see that Colombian instance revenue is widely varying. It fluctuates from that number between that number with some details underneath it. And also within this, let's start the analysis because we need to do the analysis of the Colombian instant. And the first question is Colombian instant doing in a particular retailer, or is it doing better, or does it matter which retailer it uses? So also one of the functionalities that we have available is to enlarge an analysis on the dashboard to have a broader look. Also for people which have small screens, I'm enlarging it. And as we can see here, if I do a mouse over selecting Colombian instant, so here in the bottom, I can have a mouse over on a specific product. And you can see that the other ones are becoming less appearance. And the one that I selected is appearing. So in this case, Sumatra Wonder is declining at all organizations, but we want to focus on Colombian instant. In this case, that's the purple line. And you see in every retailer, Colombian instant is outperforming or doing well. So in Broodjes en Boontjes, it's outperforming, as well as in Starbucks. In Hamé, it is second place, and Coffee Company as well. And in the Koffiehoekske, it is #1. So by this, we can make the conclusion that it's not based upon a specific retailer that this brand is or that this product is doing well. So let's go back to the dashboard. Here we can also have a look at how are the specific products doing by day. And here also I have the ability to select the Colombian instant. And what you see here is that every Colombian instant is now selected within this analysis, but also here. And also on the map, you see that all locations in this case are highlighted because it is sold at all locations at this case. So we want to focus on Colombian instant. So another thing we can do here is say, okay, let's select this one and then say keep selected. So now the entire dashboard will filter upon Colombian instant. And as you can see, also the narrative is changing into focusing on Colombian instant, and also the revenue for all the various stores is now based upon Colombian instant. As we can see here in the top, we are filtering now on Colombian instant. And another thing that is very handy, instead of brushing what we just did, so selecting something that gets highlighted in all the other visualizations, is filtering. So as you can see here, the filter in this area is green, which means that if I select here, for instance, the Broodjes en Boontjes, the dashboard now gets filtered on the Broodjes en Boontjes. So now we can see the location of Broodjes en Boontjes. And based upon the Colombian instant revenue, you could say, okay, maybe the revenue is based upon certain areas within in the map. But here we can see that yeah, it's this biggest revenue is here done and not near the center. You could say maybe the center is taking care of the most revenue, but we can have a look at Hame as well. So now it's filtered on Hame, and Hame you can see that the biggest area is in this case this is Schiphol. So Schiphol is doing quite well, and some in the center, but it's spread around as well. In the coffee company, which is has only 4 locations, is also spread. So we can have a look and filter and have a look here. And here we also can see that it's not in the center, but it's more in the I area. So it's more the harbor area of Amsterdam, which they're doing well. And Starbucks is also spread in Amsterdam. It's not, so we based upon these analysis, we can say, okay, it's not based upon a specific location that we are selling Colombian instant very good. So now we would like to, I would like to do a little bit more in-depth analysis. So what I'm going to do is here via the edit and say, okay, copy visualization. I'm creating a new canvas here. And there I can paste my visualization. So here is the map again, and with Control C or Control V, I'm adding another one as well. So copy paste also works in here. But I don't want to have twice the same analysis. So I can change here also the visualization. And as you can see, there's many visualizations that can be selected. Here now currently the map is selected, but I can use the wizard, which was used when I started with the revenue and then added retailer. It changes the visualization, but now I want to have a stacked horizontal bar, and now we can see the Colombian instant. Oh, I'm using Starbucks, so let me get rid of Starbucks as well. So now I'm using a bar chart, and here are the visualizations, and I don't want to filter on retailer. So I brought the retailer filter with me. I'm going to delete that one here as well as here. So now I'm focusing on all locations in which I have sold a Colombian instant. And here I'm now going to say, okay, let's sort on revenue, high to low, the locations. So here are the locations which are doing good, are now on top, and there's a kind of a split in there. But maybe I want to know which retailer are those. So I can use retailer and select retailer as the color to give me some insight. Okay, are the top locations, are they all based on a single retailer, or is it also spread? And as you can see here, it is spread because we see the several colors. So here again, we can select them, or can say select Starbucks, and now you can see in the map as well that the locations are highlighted. Once I select coffee company or Koffie Hoekske, those are selected in both visualizations. So here those two are selected, and that one are selected. Okay, so yeah, the revenue is not based upon location and it's not based upon retailer. So I want to do a more in-depth analysis, and for me to enable that, I have received a data set in Excel, which I want to add to this to my analysis. So I have the ability here to say, okay, I'm going to add a data set. And as Navid mentioned, we can connect to a lot of them, and we can have data sets already available. But for this case, I'm going to create a data set. And as you can see here, we can have a lot of variations on the location. It can be database. We can set up connections to any kind of source. It doesn't necessarily need to be Oracle. It can also be our competition or our friends from other organizations that we can connect to. In this case, I have received a flat file. So I'm going to select the flat file. In this case, it's the OCoffee visitors file. So once I've selected the OCoffee visitors file, I'm heading into the details of that file. So here you can see it's an Excel file. Here I can name the data set. And here is the data itself, which is in this file. So it only contains of 4 columns: an age range, occupation, gender, and store code. So it appears to me that this is okay, but I can also do some enrichment on the data set. And this data set is not that specifically to enable things, but if we would have dates, for instance, we can say add year or add month or give me weekday, things like that. But here in this data set, I have done something specific, or the organization has done something specific. As we can see here, these are the standard things we can do. So we can convert to number, convert to date. If it would be a date, something, we can have location details, which has been done already. This enables me to identify if something can be put on a map. So in this case, it has already been done for the stores. We can create groups. We can split. Well, we can do all kinds of things: uppercase, lowercase, sentence case, or trim. But what has been done for me already is that the IT organization has said, okay, if there is an age, as an organization, we have defined our own age group. And here we can see recommendations. So this is based upon machine learning that has been put into the system. And we can add our own knowledge to that, which has been done for us. So here we can say, okay, enrich the age range with age group. And once I select that, you will see that now I add an additional column, which has the age range group. So in the age range of 18 to 25, we call it OCoffee Youth. And the age 55 plus, we call it OCoffee Seniors. So by doing that, this has been added to our data set and is going to be made available for me as a user to use in my analysis. So let me add that to the script. And then, as we can see here, we can add the OCoffee visitors data set to my workbook. So when I add it to the workbook, it will appear here. So here we now see the elements that we have available, including the age range group that we just have added to our data set. So now I can combine the data from the governed, which the IT has made available to me in the governed situation, and we're going to combine that with the data which is made available in our Excel file. So I'm interested to have a look at, okay, how is the age group doing in these various locations? So instead of using retailer as a color, I'm going to add the age group we just created into this analysis. So here we now see, we see the seniors, the adults, the youth, and the young adults. And when I have a close look at what I'm seeing now is that in the successful sale of the Colombian Instant, the age group of young adults is has a high volume. So apparently these are the people who are buying our Colombian Instant. So this is an insight that I've now found and checked. So this is the first exercise: is create some insights. Okay, why is Colombian Instant doing okay in this region? And this is the insight that I'm going to use for the next part, which is, okay, we want to introduce Colombian Instant in a broader range. So where can we now introduce, what would be very sufficient in phase 2 to introduce Colombian Instant? So what I'm going to do now is say, okay, let's copy this canvas and start a new workbook for phase 2. I'm not going to save these changes. So here I have the ability to create a new workbook. And within this new workbook, I don't have to do this. I can here say, okay, let's paste the canvas. So here's the canvas we just created. And here we are going to say, okay, let's move on and see if we can see where we are going to introduce the Colombian instant next. So what we're going to do is we're now going to focus upon the young adults. So I'm selecting the young adults. I'm saying keep selected. So here we have the focus now upon the young adults in our data set. And I'm not going to focus anymore on the Colombian instant. So I'm going to adjust the filter, saying, okay, we're going to focus on all products. And I don't want to look at the test region anymore. By the way, I want to exclude the test region because I want to see, okay, which shops or which stores which are not have not sold Colombian instant up to now are the stores that we are going to introduce Colombian instant. So now I can see all the stores excluding Amsterdam. And as we can see, here's the area of Rotterdam, which is pretty high in our area. And we can also see that by, for instance, having the store city and maybe change that with the age range. And as we can see here, these are the darker ones. And if we do that on the map as well, let's color the map in that way. And we can see the darker area. So if you select these, you see these get highlighted in there. So apparently in the Rotterdam area, and we can zoom also in on the map, in the Rotterdam area, we have stores which are frequently visited by people in the age range of 25 to 30, or which we call the young adults. So here we can also say, okay, let's focus upon that. So here with the radar, we can say, okay, this is a 7.7 or maybe 7 kilometers radius. And those are the stores that we want to focus upon. So here we can say, okay, again, say keep selected. And now we are focusing upon these locations. So these are the stores that we want to use for the introduction. So let's create an additional insight with the addresses. So this dashboard then can be used by our marketing or by our department, which is, takes responsibility of that introduction. So I'm going to do Ctrl+C, Ctrl+V. And as you can see, we can drag and drop the location of the visualization to any place that we want. So for instance, I'm going to put it underneath. I'm not going to add this as a section. And here I can use my wizard, for instance, and say, okay, let's have the retailer and have the store ID, the store city and address, as well as a revenue, and put that into this visualization. And that's not the visualization that I want to have. I want just to have a table, and the order is now being defined in this way. So I want to put a revenue as last, and I can also sort. So the top one is here, and again the brushing is working by selecting here. We select it on all the visualizations. But this is now the insight that it can be used by our organization to define the new location. So let me rename it this canvas to new Colombian instant stores. Okay, and this canvas is empty, so we can delete that one. We can also say, okay, let's save the workbook. And we can say, okay, coffee phase 2 Colombian instant. Let's save it like that. Yeah, so this is the insight that we now are providing to the organization to say, okay, let's use this for the introduction. And the next part is, okay, can we do anything to improve the effectiveness of the introduction? So in the phase 1 approach in the Amsterdam region, we used vouchers for people, for Colombian instant, for people to use, and we have recorded which people have used that voucher. So we have a data set which I have already loaded into the system. So I'm not going to do the same steps as we did before. So for the test region, there's a data set that's available to me to have a look at. So here we see that data set. We're going to focus upon that, and as you can see, there are all kinds of information for that we have registered. So we've asked if people have used public transportation, distance from home towards the store, the visits per month. So that's all being collected in our data set. And we've also have if people have used the vouchers. And one of the powerful things that we can do now is to have the system explain the voucher. So with doing that, we are using machine learning to analyze the data and provide me insights that maybe are new to me. So without having a bias of the data, the system is using default things to have a look at the data. So here we see an overview. We have about 3,000 rows in this data set. And we can see how many are yes and how many are no rated to voucher. We can also see the spread around the distance from home, the number of loyalty programs, and the distance to work. And within this overview, I can also select the insights. I can bring that back to the dashboard with me. So these are the basic facts. I can also have a look at the key drivers of people who are looking into the voucher. And here we can see that the system has found that gender, job role, age range, and house owner are strongly correlated to if people are using the voucher. So this is of interest to me. So I can select these insights again and bring that back to the system with me. There's also some explanation or prediction has done. So here we can say, okay, the green is yes and the blue is no. By selecting that, we can see that 41% of the voucher we predict no, with a confidence of 85% if the job role is in management or transportation and they don't own a house. And maybe we're interested more into the green one. So with the almost 90% confidence, we can predict 75% yes, if people are in the age range of 18 to 25, and if they own a house, and that's when they use the voucher. And so these might be very interesting insights for me. And also we have some anomalies. So we can see anomalies for vouchers in this case. We can see the orange ones are the predictions. So we predict something, and the bars are the real situation. So with doing that and with selecting these insights, I can bring that to a dashboard. Let me add it to the dashboard. And I immediately can see these insights and can start and here with maybe have a look at the data and doing some analysis on this data. So this is one of the additional steps we can take, but there's more we can do. So let me save this. I'm not going to skip that part because we can also become a more citizen data scientist. So the systems allows us to do specific things. Here we can see there's a machine learning part, but that's not what I want to show. We're going to create a data flow, or I'm going to create a data flow in which I'm going to define a model based upon the data set that we just looked into. So I'm selecting my test region data set. and I add it to the data flow. And now I'm in the data flow section, in which I can do all kinds of things. I can join data set unions, I can do all kinds of things, but the most interesting things are here. We can do a sentiment analysis, but we can also do a training areas. In this case, here you can see an overview of the data set, and here we can see that voucher column. So if it's a yes or a no, and that's what I want to create a model upon, to predict if a person, a customer, is going to have a yes or no with using the voucher. Because the more efficient we can do the voucher, the better it is for the Colombian instant introduction. So here we can add a step, and here we can see the same one as we can see over there. And we're going to do a binary classifier. So we can binary will say, okay, there's two values we are going to predict, and that's the yes or the no. So if we select the binary classifier, we can select the type of model that we're going to use. In this case, we're going to use the naive Bayes for classification. And that's a selection that you can choose yourself, and you can have a look. Okay, and here, with having that binary classifier, we have to define what is the target. So which is the column that we want to do the prediction. In this case, that's the voucher. So we want to predict the yes or the no. And in this case, the positive class is yes. And we can, I'm going to use the default settings. And here we can also, or we are saying, okay, the train partition percentage, we are using 80% of this data set to train the model, so to create the model, and 20% of the data set is going to be used to see the quality of the model. Okay, and the next step here is to save the model, and then we're going to give a name, and I'm going to give it demo voucher naive Bayes. I'm not going to use the description. And now I'm going to save the data flow. So the data flow demo voucher naive Bayes, and we can use descriptions. So now that is being set up, and here is also the run button. So we can also create the model. So by pressing that button, I'm creating, or the system is creating this this model, and is splitting the data set into the 80-20%, runs the model and creates the model, and then does the check upon that 20%, and to define if it's a yes, did we predict it yes correctly, and if it was no, did we predict no correctly. So that model has now been created for us, so we can have a look at the model. So here we can go now to the machine learning section, and as you can see, here is the demo voucher naive Bayes one, which we just created. We can inspect that model, and here we can see general information. We can have a look at the quality of the model, and as you can see here, here's the yes. So we predicted 46 times yes, and it should be yes. But 55 times we predicted yes, and it was no. And same the other way around. No and no was 460, and 27 times we predicted yes, but it should be no. Here's the access to the model. There are details available. So here's the input and the configuration and things like that. And in the background, we're also creating additional data sets which can be used for. Okay, so now the model has been created. The next step is then to, okay, let's use that model. So when we want to use that model, and that's considering time, I've already done that. There's a data flow which is called the voucher prediction, and when I open it, we walk through it, and it's almost the same step. Only here we're using apply model. So in the apply model, I've selected the voucher NB model, the model that I already pre-created as well. And within that, here you can see, okay, this is the data set. And when I go to the save data set, so the result, you see that the result already has the predicted value with the prediction confidence. And so there's a confidence percentage that is being put here. And 1 is the high and 0 is low confidence. And this now can be used in our as an insight for us. So I'm not going to change it, not going to save it. So let's go back to the home page and go back to our workbooks and have the Coffee Phase 2 workbook. I'm going to add a new canvas here. I'm going to add the data set that has been created with the prediction. So there's a prediction, the predicted data set that we just saw, which is put in now underneath. And here is the prediction data set. And here now we can select for instance, the first name, last name, gender, the predicted value, and the predicted confidence. And with right mouse click, I can say, okay, create the best visualization. So I have the system select the visualization. I'm now going to do it myself. I want to have a table. So let's put it into a table. So here we can see now the predictions. Let me reorder it a little bit, which are there. So the prediction confidence is now last, and let's have the predicted value first. And with here, we can also say, okay, let's focus our insight on the predicted value. So I have that as a filter and say, okay, let's have the predicted ones on yes here, and maybe have the predicted confidence as color. Yeah, and here now it's spread around, and let's focus upon and sorting it from high to low. So here I now have a new insight that I can bring to the marketing organization and say, okay, these are the people who we predict that are going to use the vouchers with the introduction of Colombian Instant, so that Colombian Instant is going to be even faster, more successful within the organizations in the Rotterdam area. And that's finalizing my demo. So Navid, if you take over.
Yes, thank you, Bas. So I just want to summarize this thing as Bas mentioned and shown a demo. So you could see, again, if you're going back to the governance, self-service, and machine learning. So we saw how we can connect to the data sources. We saw that we can add both to a data model, but also add spreadsheets or other files or other sources. We saw some of the capability within the self-service, how we can easily create the reports, how we can do data mashup. We saw some of the enrichment. So these were the more advanced capabilities that I explained in the earlier, which Bas showed, of these enrichments of the data with both embedded model, custom models or knowledge models, or custom knowledge models. We also saw that all of these things are built on the same platform, where we have these three strong pillars with governance, self-service, and machine learning capabilities. So that is what the demo was focusing on and showing. The last thing, or a couple of last things I wanted to point on, that the platform, as we just saw, we can connect to sources, create a data model, prepare data, explore, create dashboards, and then ultimately collaborate and share these reports in an easy way. Some of the things are cloud functionality that comes on the cloud first. So that is really good to know that there is a huge advantage on testing and trying out the cloud platform, Oracle Analytics Cloud first, because most of these functionalities comes on the cloud platform first. So some of the examples are the smart data profiling, scheduling data flows, the enrichment capabilities, custom reference knowledge that Bas also showed, and some of the capabilities in machine learning, which is coming on the cloud platform first and then releasing later on premise side. With that, I also wanted to explain or show a bit that we have a public roadmap site where you can see a bit more in detail what is released when, both for the cloud product, but also on the on-premise analytics server. So for those of you using analytics server, what are the benefits of moving to the cloud? We have stored all of this information here as well, but also we have this session for you to go back to and see in detail as well. There are YouTube clips where you can see all of these things again in a bit more in detail as well, if you like. And with that, I would like to thank from both of us, from me and Bas.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.